There's like 10 of us, I don't know. We've had one meeting, so. Did you happen to print out the stuff from Jim?
I didn't, no.
Yeah.
I can,
I've got it on my phone, I can get it there.
okay. I thought about printing it out, but
I just want to make sure we'll follow the protocol here.
I didn't see anything that was really alarming to me.
Well,
Would that be easier?
yeah, I have a question for you.
Sure.
How do we? She has to be licensed for us to go. If she isn't licensed and can't be unless we do this.
No, the sequence one. She can be licensed or non-licensed, no matter
It doesn't
what.
matter.
You don't have anything to do, I mean, as far as this, you only have commissions. Count one is she must demonstrate to the council that there's a license or she has an exemption. The burden is on the petitioner that does that.
Okay.
That is a requirement. It has to be either or. There has to either be a license because this isn't a use variance, it's a conditional use.
Right.
The burden is upon the petitioner to meet every single one of the general
Yeah.
and then must meet the specific, and that's number one.
Right.
The Board of Zoning Appeals has no authority whatsoever to grant an exemption of any licensing. This is just purely, can the property be zoned in that area? It can be contingent upon 10 days, 30 days, whatever you might want to make a decision, but a conditional use must, that's the primary number one qualification that has to be met.
Right, so.
Yeah.
But we could grant it provisionally upon the receipt of it?
Might be better to table
That's what I'm thinking.
upon the receipt, I mean, like, go ahead and proceed, but then withhold to the January meeting, either the exemption paperwork or the license. But you could go ahead and hear all the other ones, and hear all that information, and then maybe she's brought a license or an exemption, but the conditional use, it has to meet every single one of the general
Right.
and the specific.
Okay.
And without meeting those, I mean, that's, can't be granted. Then once the petitioner meets those, it limits the authority of the board. If they've met everything, then this is one. Now where use variance is different, you can still go, I'm weighing these out, but that's the difference of a conditional use. But then you still have all the same primary notice, all of those things as you always do. You have to make sure we get all those letters went out. So you have the specific Owen County, the statute, and then over here, don't have to pay attention to this. This is the general that anyone asking for conditional use must meet. I think there's 10 conditions. Then on the next page, these are the specific that must be met for this particular.
Right, so my point was, this one cannot be met.
We do, if that's the case, if it can't, then a conditional use cannot be granted. You can't grant it. You could hear all of the other ones, you could table it, waiting for approval of the other, but it cannot be granted
Well,
without
I
it.
think the sticking
how fun.
in the current zoning.
And I love that.
I don't know if that's
I don't know.
Well, maybe.
Well, I don't know about that, I mean,
I think
What,
before
like, is
anything
there a
happens,
state,
this-
is there a state requirement on that?
I mean, the person that would not come through here. That person could go and would either go to the State Board of Health, Board of Health, and be granted a license or granted an exemption.
Okay.
Yeah, I had.
I don't know that they're connected, and like now, maybe if someone's gonna say that, I don't know, but those are two separate entities. And you guys have no authority over that, to override the health.
I'll tell you what,
Right, but we also,
we're gonna regret those words. No.
I mean, the way I read it.
I mean, and she's
Well,
smart, she's athletic.
Well, yeah, I mean, the fact that there may be more information or new
Okay.
information, but that's,
I don't think
that's the primary one for the local code that must be.
yeah, well, I'm one person with.
I never had that
I
problem.
was thinking.
Smart, athletic.
Okay. We are past due. My apologies again. I will call the December the 16th, 2021 meeting of the Owen County BZA to order. Our first order of business, if everyone would join me, we do a pledge to allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Number 3, roll call. Suzanne, would you mind?
Yep. Sandra Wood. Corbin Abram.
Present.
Norm Warner.
Here.
Robin Cooper.
Present.
Beth Wood.
Here.
Number 4, approval of minutes. You have before you the minutes from the October the 21st meeting. I will hear a motion.
I move to approve the minutes from October 21st.
Second it.
Have a motion by Corbin Averill, seconded by Beth Wood. All in favor? Aye. 4-0. New business. First on new business, a conditional variance by Tiffany Fry. And I'm assuming Tiffany Fry is president. So if you would come forward to the table, please, state your name for the record and then make your petition.
My legal name now is actually Tiffany Gruner.
Okay.
Same person. I have an in-home daycare now, and I'm asking permission to have an unlicensed or licensed, whichever one's easiest, daycare to accept CCDF, or what was normally, or formerly known as Casey. I have mothers that are eligible for the benefits, the government benefits, are unable to use them. And they can't get their child into a daycare any other place that accepts them because the wait lists are way, way too long. So it's becoming an issue. So for me, nothing changes. I'm just trying to help my parents and the children that I have.
Is that it?
Yep, that's it.
Okay. So I'm gonna go through our procedures here, just so everybody's on the same page. A Board of Zoning Appeals shall approve or deny conditional use from the terms of the zoning ordinance, but only in the class or classes or in the particular situation specified in the zoning ordinance. The board may impose reasonable conditions as part of this approval process. So ordinance, the county ordinance 15-3, the following procedures must be followed to consider conditional use petition. Notice of the board's hearing on the application for conditional use shall be published in the local newspaper of general circulation at least 10 days prior to the hearing in compliance with Indiana Code 531. Suzanne, that did happen?
Yes, that did happen.
Thank you. At least 10 days prior to the board hearing on the application for conditional use approval, the planning director shall notify all interested parties of public hearing by certified mail. Did that happen?
Yes, that did happen.
At least 10 days prior to the board hearing on the application for conditional use approval, the planning director shall post and maintain a sign on the subject property notifying those passing the property that a request for conditional use approved had been made. Had that been posted? Thank you. The board shall conduct a public hearing, which is tonight, for the application. Following the board hearing on the application for conditional use approval, the board shall take action on the applicant's application. The board may approve the application with conditions, or deny application. The board shall make written findings of the fact in support of the decision, and the planning director, which would be Suzanne, shall promptly provide the application with a copy of the board's written findings. And that's also kept on record in your office,
Yes,
correct?
it is.
The following, pursuant to Indiana Code 36-7-4920, the following recommendations are mandated. There must be public notice, which we've covered. At the hearing, each party may appear in person, which you have. The staff, if any, may appear before the board at the hearing and present evidence in support of the, or opposition to the determination of the matter. So, is there anyone here in support or not in support of this petition? Okay, so no one. Person may not communicate with any member of the board before the hearing and intent to influence the members in any action on the matter pending before the board not less than 5 days before the hearing. So I'm assuming that no one was contacted ahead of time. Okay. Okay, variance conditional use. A conditional use is not a variance. The primary difference between conditional use and variance is that the conditional use is not an exception use. While a variance is a departure from the terms of an ordinance, a conditional use is a permitted use under the terms of the ordinance so long as the enumerated conditions are met. Granting of a variance is a matter committed to discretion of the Board of Zoning Appeals, whereas granting of the special exception is mandatory once the petitioner shows compliance with the relevant statutory criteria. The burden of demonstrating satisfaction of relevant statutory criteria rests with the applicant for the special exceptions to a zoning regulation. On County Ordinance 15.6, general standards of approval. In order for a conditional use to be approved, the board must find the requested conditional use is one of the conditional uses listed in the zoning district in which the subject property is located. All Article 8 commercial development standards are incorporated as standards, uses, and conditions for conditional use. All conditions, regulations, and development standard required in the zoning ordinance shall be satisfied. Granting the conditional use shall not conflict with the general purpose of the zoning ordinance or with the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan. Conditional use of property can be served with adequate utilities, access streets, drainage, and other necessary facilities. The conditional use shall not involve any element or cause any condition that may be dangerous, injurious, or noxious to any other property persons and shall comply with performance standards delineated in this ordinance. The conditional use shall be situated, oriented, and landscaped, including buffering, to produce a harmonious relationship of building and grounds with adjacent structures, properties, and uses. The conditional use shall produce a total visual impression and environment which is consistent with the environment of the neighborhood. The conditional use shall organize vehicular access and parking to minimize traffic congestion in the neighborhood. All permits required by the federal, state, and local agencies have been obtained. Then Ordinance 15.8, special criteria for daycare centers. Proof of licensing or exemption from the state shall be presented with the application. Operator shall be responsible for compliance with all applicable ordinances and state and federal statutes and regulations. The center shall be screened from adjacent properties with a fence or vegetated buffer, and an adequate fenced play area shall be provided. The minimum lot size shall be 15,000 square feet, or a minimum lot size of the district, whichever is greater. Site design and supervision characteristics shall ensure that the peace and safety of the surrounding area shall not be impaired. No center shall be approved within 500 feet of another center. If the location in a residential zone or subdivision, the center shall be located adjacent to the arterial streets used by the subdivision for access and have, if possible, a separate entrance for egress and ingress to the center and or adequate parking on the lot where the center is located. Okay. So, and we had just spoken to Jim just a little bit, in reference to Ordinance 15.8, which was the last one I read. Proof of license or exemption from the state shall be presented with the application.
You can't get the license without paperwork.
Right.
So.
Right.
Basically what they're asking me to have is either a business permit or a statement stating that I don't need a business permit in Owen County. That's all that they require, and without either one of those, I can't submit anything to them. I did submit it and it bumped back out to me.
When they bumped it back, did they say
I
anything?
have to have a business permit or a letter stating that I don't require a business permit. And then that's when I contacted you guys, because I didn't know exactly how to go about that.
But if we made a conditional, variance, assuming she's going to get the permit, would that be enough to satisfy? I don't know if that's gonna satisfy and not justify having a business permit or not. I don't feel like us giving approval would satisfy that need,
Yeah, that's my
I think
question.
I would think a business permit or non-business permit would not have anything to do with the variance.
That's all I'm confused on.
Yes,
That
ma'am.
is true.
Right,
They just wanted a letter. If you don't require her to have a business license, she just needed a letter stating that she doesn't need it.
But that wouldn't come from this.
Yeah, that would be outside of our purview, right?
We can't just make that decision of whether you permit or not.
This is
Right.
purely a zoning board.
Right.
You wouldn't be granting any business permit or non-business permit. This is just geographically, does this parcel land qualify for a different zone or a use different than the zoning? That's the only authority this board has.
So it is currently zoned residential, I'm assuming,
Residential, single family.
and daycares in Owen County would normally be zoned, is it multifamily?
Well,
Or,
they could, with a conditional use, a residential could be
Turn
a
it into
daycare.
use.
Right.
Yeah,
long
for
as-
that time as she's running the daycare.
Gotcha.
Once she stopped running the daycare, then it would cease that
And it would
conditional use.
revert
Or
back
if
to
she
res-
sold the property, it would
The
cease.
new owner wouldn't have that.
No,
They would have to reappear before
Right,
to get a conditional
yes.
use.
so if you, I'm assuming if you give her conditional use, I don't know if that would suffice the state or not. I really don't know, because, I couldn't write the letter.
There was I didn't really read into it, and I may send this over to you, but it did have a conditional variance through the FSSA, stating like, look, I can't get the letter stating that I don't need a business permit, but maybe I have this paperwork saying I can use my home as this. I don't know if that works the same. Other than that,
Well, and see what the resolution would do is it would, if they approved it, then you'd have a document that said you met the criteria for
right,
what was in there. And then that could be, would be provided to you after it was signed if they approved it. So then you would have that resolution to show them that the board has given you approval, either approval with conditions, and then you could provide that, which would be signed by the president if they were to approve it.
And I don't, and I won't speak for everybody else, we'll vote on it if we get a motion. I would think that if we granted the conditional use, that would at least give you some inflow to getting your license possibly, but I'm not gonna tell you that and be wrong, because I can't guarantee that.
No, I'm not
That's-
agreeing that and just for both parties, I have no opinion, like I'm not doing, but I'm just trying to say from the legal perspective,
Right,
this board has no authority
Right.
at all to grant a license.
Right.
Only thing that this board can do is simply, the petitioner, in this case, Ms. Grimmer, I may have the name wrong, Ms. Grimmer has the burden to show she has met all 10 of the general qualifications, all of the specific qualifications. Once that's done, this board is satisfied, then the board should grant the conditional use. Failure to establish those prohibits the granting of a conditional use. If there's a way that the State Board of Health, or whatever proper agency, grants either an exemption or grants the license, and then once that's presented, then you would just go down the checklist.
So I guess the question is, does she have the fencing? Does she have?
right. So, yeah. So the question is, in my opinion anyway, do you have the adequate utilities, access to street, drainage, and other necessary facilities?
yes.
Is it landscaped in such a way to, I'm trying to make it up in my head and it's written right here. To screen the neighbors from the daycare?
Yes.
And do you have your outside play area? And do you have any idea what the square footage of that is?
I do not, but I have two separate play areas. The one that I typically use for the toddlers that are in diapers is fenced in.
Okay. What about off-street parking? Yes.
Well, they don't really park, they don't stay.
Right, yeah, but, yeah, I mean, I think,
Yes.
right, what they're looking for, and I'm assuming what they're looking for is when people drop people off, they're not blocking the road
Yes.
for the access to other folks into the development. Is it are you in a residential area? No.
It's rural, but,
Okay.
yeah.
And then the total visual impression of the environment is consistent with the environment around. In other words, does it look like every other property out there? Is there anything that stands out or that would be an eyesore for everyone else?
It does not look like every other property, it looks a whole lot better, but.
Yeah, right. And then the last one is all permits required by federal, state, and local agencies have been obtained. Other than your licensing, do you have your licensing is there any other licensing for a daycare other than license for a daycare?
You just have to have, most of them want city water. If you don't have city water, you have oil water, you have to get tested and have that permit. We have
Okay.
city water.
And which one do you have?
City.
You have city water,
Yeah.
okay. What about, a limit on the number of children you can have in the facility based on your employees? Are you fitting that criteria?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And don't you have to have like first aid training and stuff like that too?
First aid and safety.
Yeah, that's what I thought, okay.
Blood pathogen training.
Well, I would entertain a motion.
Real quick, the question I have back on this barrier I talked about from other property, just looking at the property map here, I see in the north and the west side, there's clearly shrubby or whatever they talked about, but on that east side there, I don't, like, is there a fence or anything?
So there's not, but, we're her parents.
Oh, that's your
We're the ones
property.
that live there.
Oh, okay, gotcha, that's why I didn't realize that, okay,
Yeah, and that's
gotcha.
where the drive splits.
Yeah, I see that, and that's why I was confused if it was a
Yeah.
separate landowner that wasn't, just having some sort of barrier there for those
Yeah.
children to keep them on the proper property with that, so, okay. I would see that.
And we didn't hear from any adjacent property owners, obviously,
No.
because we've already covered that area.
Yes.
Okay,
Well, I would, I make the motion on the condition that she's able to get her licensing, that we approve the conditional use variance.
we have a motion by Corbin April
Second it, right, to
for
approve.
approval
Yes, for
with the condition of getting her license.
License, yeah.
Yes, and we have a second by Beth Wood.
Okay.
All in favor? Aye. 4-0. So, congratulations. We do need to see that license though. And you would bring that to Suzanne. After I get the finding signed, she'll have a copy of it for you and will she pick it up here or will you mail it to her?
I can, either way, however you'd like it.
You wanna handle it?
And then she'll have to mail that to the state. then, to
Right.
get the license. So.
That should get you down the road to get your license. And trust me, I've got 2 small grandchildren. Daycare is a problem in this area.
Yes.
And I'm glad that someone's addressing it.
Thank you.
Just, there was a recent closure of a daycare too, so.
Yes, it's a problem in Owen County and I'm
It's
glad to
everywhere, it's
see.
not just here, it's everywhere.
Yeah, it's everywhere. Well, it's not easy work. I work for the schools and it's not easy work. And folks have gotta work, and they gotta have a place to take their small ones, so. I appreciate that and, hopefully this will get you down the road.
Well, I appreciate it.
On your
Thank you
licensing.
so much.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. Guys, have a good evening. Jim, is there any procedural things are we good? we're,
They gotta have a license. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said, yeah.
Yeah.
License. No, but all, yeah, all the procedure, everything.
okay. All right, B, meeting calendar for 2022. Alternative date, for the spring break is gonna be March the 17th.
No, that is the date.
That is the
You
date.
gotta find
We
another.
need to find an alternate date for the 17th because it will be spring break for the schools. And I remember last year, we were having a meeting in the middle of spring break, I wasn't here, everybody was gone, so it
So
was a problem.
February is, you could either jump to the 24th or to stay on the stay on that Thursday schedule. So,
Did you put it?
I did put a calendar in there.
Yeah,
It should be at the
the very
end of
It is.
Oh, you mean March 24th, right?
Yeah. What did I say?
February 24th is.
November? Sorry. I'm jumping a year
How about
ahead.
March 24th, I'm gonna say
Yeah.
February 24th, that'd be problematic for me.
Yeah, so either the 24th or the 31st would be the next 2 Thursdays, possibly.
Here is the only thing that I'm going to say
Okay.
on my behalf.
Mhm.
Because my job is driven by NCAA sports.
Mhm.
Should IU get into the tournament, I very well may not be here, because depending on where they would play and all that kind of stuff, I would be gone. So,
If we move forward, we're gonna get into council or commissioners, right? We moved it up a week to the 12th,
Well, the 10th, yeah, the 10th would be the next,
7 days.
yeah, that just pushes it farther into February when they actually have to file the paperwork. Cause if you look, the application has to be provided 30 days prior to it, so,
Is everybody okay with the 24th?
Yeah, that's fine.
oh, for March?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, that would be my only deal. But I'm one person, so.
And well, and the thing is, when we get there, we may not have anything. I mean,
yeah,
we don't
it may
know.
not even be.
I know
something
we've
that-
got spring break that week. We
Yeah.
cannot do it on the
Yeah.
17th when nobody will be in town.
And it's that possibility of something happening, you know, somebody filing,
Mhm.
you know. but-
We'll know in February if there's gonna be anything there. so
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
change it need to.
yeah. So is there any other dates on that?
Yeah, I guess that's the question. Anybody else got any conflicts on there? And then, is everybody okay with leaving them at 7? Obviously, if it wasn't at 7 tonight, Norm would have been very late. Because,
I said,
Yeah.
for me, 7's best, especially in spring and summer.
I know you
Yeah, that's-
travel,
yeah, he was,
Robin travels a
yeah,
lot.
I think it was.
Tonight I was
both of
traveling a
you
lot.
guys. That's why.
I just am on 2 boards, it's hard for me to keep track of what's
Right.
what.
And then,
So,
I hate that for Jim though, because Jim lives in,
That's fine,
Okay.
that's fine.
It's not about Jim. I'm sorry, I couldn't help that.
well, Jim lives here pretty much,
Yeah,
is
he
what I'm
does.
understanding, so. Okay, well, I would say then, with that noted change in March to the 24th, do we have a motion to approve next year's calendar?
I'll make that motion
I'll
to
second.
approve next year's calendar.
All right, Beth Wood with a motion, seconded by Robin. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
I do
All right,
have an announcement to make though.
okay,
So for the vast majority of the 22 year, probably will still be living in Owen County, but we have purchased property in Morgan County. And our hope is to start building in the last of March, 1st of April. And so there, at some point in time, I will no longer be in Owen County.
Robin, you're killing me. Killing me.
May I ask, that, you don't have to answer that, will you still own property though in Owen County?
No.
Oh, okay, no, I'm not trying to pry,
Yeah.
but there is an exception also that if you're not a resident, but you.
Oh, I do own property in Owen County.
Own property in Owen
I got,
County.
okay.
yeah, I have a rental property in Owen County.
Okay, so when that time comes, if you would remind me, let's verify, but there
Okay.
is a kind of a dual residency type requirement there of either resident or the owner of property, so we
Okay.
can take a look at it then.
Yeah, I do, the
Are
property
you-
that Amy lives.
What group appointed?
I'm sorry,
How are you put on here? Are we which group appointed?
I have no clue. I think I was commissioner appointed.
Commissioner?
What?
It's not important now, but we would need to know that too, because if she doesn't qualify, then we need to know what group to go back to replace her.
Right.
But that, we can cross that bridge later, Suzanne,
Yeah,
it's
I
not
think
important
I was
tonight.
commissioner appointed.
Well, I can find it
She
very
could decide she's not doing
quickly.
whatever she's talking about. after
Okay,
all.
so for
Oh, no.
planning commission, there is no, it doesn't say,
Planning commission, I think
Yeah.
she's, I wanna say commissioners, because you're also
Mm-hmm.
on this board, which decided to fight
Nice.
two of them, both of us are
That's,
that way.
that's what I thought. I was with the
But for
commissioners.
BZA, I don't know. I don't remember why I'm on, yeah, I don't remember which group put me on here.
okay.
Commission appointed.
So, yeah, the planning commission appoints you to this board, so whoever appoints you to the planning commission would make that determination.
Right,
So
we
that was the
commissioners.
commissioners.
Yeah, so,
That's
And
what I
then-
thought it was.
yeah, cause I don't see,
County.
County. And I think I'm a.
for some reason one of these is
I think.
not working.
Honestly, I don't remember.
You said you remember both from the planning commission.
Right, because we're both on the planning
We're
commission.
appointing you to the planning commission.
I think we're both.
Yeah, but commissioners.
Okay.
Yeah, cause, well, but it says, I have a commissioner, county commissioner appointee, which for some reason my thing's covering it right now. But you can see that on the screen there, it says planning commission members, but it doesn't say who appointed those people. But I do have yeah, cause it's, below the green thing there is Bob Curry. Cause Curry's the commissioner appointee, these up here, it doesn't tell me who appointed those people.
Well, I
So,
know Mike Swafford was the commissioners.
yeah,
I think the commissioners have several in that group.
usually isn't it about half and half?
There's a couple of just citizens.
Like-
Yeah, I was thinking that Gary Burton and, the president, who was the president of the commissioners, not now.
Jeff Brothers.
Jeff Brothers?
Yeah, Jeff Brothers, yeah,
Have
was
one
the
of you.
two, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
Well, you need to change your.
We'll have you till these.
You can change your mind up.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I still have property,
I
so.
mean, I don't know
nowhere.
that kind of, all right.
Well, and it won't affect until you.
We are literally 5 minutes across the Owen County line. I mean, Morgan County line from Owen County. I mean, we are 8 minutes from the farm.
Uh-huh.
It's just the
Well,
way it worked out.
Just when we get there, we'll make sure that we're in compliance with Jim and we'll move on from there. Number 8, public comments, I'm assuming we have none. Number 9, BCA comments. Anyone got anything? I do apologize again for being late, guys. I would also like to publicly thank Kenny Anderson for his many, many years of service to the county. He's gonna be retiring at the end of the month. Republican Party will be holding a caucus on the 28th to replace him. That it was 28th, isn't it?
Health issues, doesn't he?
I don't know, he's done it a long
Been a
time,
long time, that's it.
and
Yeah.
maybe he just needs a rest. These can be a little rough on you.
Oh, no.
So, number 10, motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Have a great Christmas.
Thank you.
You too, Jim, thank you. I went